Beachfront property is some of the most expensive and desirable locations to live. Most people are aware of the financial cost of living by the ocean, but few are aware of the environmental cost. Construction of homes by the beach is linked to increased levels of coastal erosion and a subsequent increase in interregnous or land-borne sediments into the ocean. The consequences of heightened erosion are especially damaging to nearshore organisms like coral. These fragile, non-motile creatures are particularly susceptible to stress from sediments because they are unable to move. Humans greatly increase coastal sediments through the construction by oceans and waterways. Plants and trees are often the first things to be cleared out before construction can begin. The root systems that once held up these plants also stabilize the hills and cliffs they were removed from, leaving these areas especially susceptible to landslides during storm. The obvious consequence to this is the potential to lose your home in one of these storms. In addition to this, even if the home stays standing, all the debris that is washed away ends up in the ocean, dramatically altering the composition of the intertidal. In fact, humans are responsible for 2.3 billion metric tons of sediments entering the ocean per year due to erosion. This is not an insignificant amount, and the consequences can be devastating for living coastal communities. One way these particles harm the coral is suffocation. Due to the coral's sedentary lifestyle, they are incredibly susceptible to being overrun by silt and sand. This is compounded by the fact that corals cannot easily latch onto sandy substrates, so their colonies cannot grow onto new land, and recruitment is diminished. The fine dusty particles are also abrasive to the coral's soft, fleshy skin. Even if the sediments don't land directly on them, cloudy water greatly reduces the sunlight getting to the coral and limits their photosynthetic productivity. Unfortunately, we are still a long way off from finding a solution or even fully understanding the consequences of the increased load of sediments on coral due to limited research and funding. One of the best things we can do to manage our coastlines and reduce the impact on at-risk organisms is to maintain natural elements of the coast and be selective about where and what we build. Organisms like mangroves, coastal succulents, and trees are an essential element of erosion reduction, as they greatly increase the stability of cliffs and hillsides. Planning is an often overlooked but critical component of making long-term structures like homes and harbors. Understanding the coastline's natural features and predicting what structures will do to the sand and sediments can save developers a lot of money in the long term. Structures like seawalls often solve a short-term problem, but have the potential to cause much worse issues in the future. With time and research invested upfront, we can help sensitive coastal coral communities and reduce our impact on offshore animals. To take a deeper and more critical look, I decided to sit down with our resident coral expert, Stefan Bitterwolf, and ask him a few questions.
Hi, Stefan.
What's up, Tino?
So, you're a coral researcher here at UC Santa Cruz?
That's true.
Is it true that what you do for your research is go out and kill coral?
Yes.
And, is it brutal?
Very brutal. We often go with pickaxes to take chunks about this size. I usually do that with a gang of people. In 2005, we had a big bleaching event where 50% of our reefs died, and my mom was sad, so she cried. And as a young boy, you want to know the things that make your mom cry and see if you can do more of those things.
Right.
So ever since then, I've just been on that trajectory of how do I make my mom cry the hardest? And killing corals has always been the easy go-to.
Our sources say that you have a fish tank at home with no sand or sediments, but you still manage to kill the coral in them. How is this possible?
It's very easy. Well, mostly I have a fish tank because I like to kill corals. It's actually why I got into this business, because coral killing is kind of on the rise right now, and it's really fun to ride that wave. So, I don't know, it just helps me sleep at night with the silent screams.
And how would you describe the quality of the reef underneath your family's boat?
It is literally covered in human feces.
Yeah.
I've got a freezer full of victims right in this lab, actually. I can show you. And we just keep them in there as almost as a warning to other corals that we're coming for you.
Mm-hmm.
As a trophy, because, I like to mount them in certain ways, make little artistic pieces. Got this nice, beautiful coral skeleton in a piece of driftwood that everybody is oh, that's beautiful. I'm it was nice to kill that. It was a great feeling. And I did kill it myself, which is, not a lot of people can just say that.
Yeah. Sure.
They're just a small fraction of the death, so who's really to blame? Oh, everybody's fault. But it's directly my fault that the corals that I have died because I killed them.
Right, there's a real sense of pride there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Deep sense of pride.
Well, this is some great insight we've gotten from you, Stefan. Thank you very much for sitting down with me.
Yeah, and keep doing what you're doing.